Thank you very much, everyone. It's an honor to be here amongst you, and great to hear all of the presentations today. Discovery and development are part of our world, and through it we can understand the nature and our connection to reality to a much greater extent. When we look at it, development and discovery work with creation and destruction. The idea that we can work along and keep on developing at the same time, but also into a way which we have to keep on analyzing the world in which we live and look at the various convergences around us. Most importantly for all of this is to understand a few elements, because in each society we are always questioning what is the nature and what is the center of development and discovery. Does it come from the individual? Is it socially created and crafted around us? Is it here to serve the state? Is it from the amount of knowledge, human rights, and perhaps even 5 great apps of development for various peoples and nations to create their amount of power and prestige to draft these proposals and discoveries in the future? As a historian, I tend to look at things through definitions. These definitions are the exclusion and inclusion of different forms, but we work to push away other forms to come to the nucleus, the terms that we are looking for, so that we better understand the world around us. But like any discovery and any creation, when we leave things out and we think we have things that can describe the world in detail, suddenly those excluded elements find their way back in, and we have to change the way we think and feel and understand the concepts better. This works? And for some reason this isn't working right now, but I will continue to speak as well before this comes out. There are 5 things that one should understand and remember when it comes to discovery and the development of a society. And this can fit on the palm of your hand. It includes what, when, where, how, and why. They are simple things, but simple is best to understand how things develop over time and our relations to those developments for ourselves, and also place ourselves understanding which developments are key to the societies today. So as a historian, let me guide you through time to look at discoveries and developments, how they change, and the people that have made them as well. What? A block of stone taken down from the northern Italian mountains, cut with copper wire and down a track through the mountains and rivers, it makes its way to the major cities of northern Italy. Materials determine what we can use and how we can express our discoveries and sort of creativity for development. We are bound in some ways to the materials we use. And when you see materials like this, the first things that come to mind are creativity, that this has already been discovered. In the rock, when we take it down, it is already in the form it is supposed to be, and it lies there until we cut it up for tiles or other objects on the ground. When this was hewn out of the rock in about 1470, this sat inside of the church for up to 30 years, until in 1501, a single individual came and discovered this again, and that was Michelangelo. And with this block, he did not see something that was already finished. He saw something that had a discovery with it. And this is, of course, David. And David, at this point, was within the rock for Michelangelo. It wasn't creativity, it wasn't art. He found, or thought he found, the statue already in the rock, complete. It was his job as the artist to uncover it and show it to the world. It was for him a discovery, a understanding and a archaeology of something that had existed within the rock itself. The rock marble, of course, great for the creation of statues and other memorials, last thousands of years, and because of its strength as well, but he is able to use this material to bring out something that he feels is a discovery within it. But then again, he is also hemmed in by the types of materials he can use. And this rock, developed and taken down from the mountain, the type of material it is, and the ability to graft onto his idea of that discovery, leads to this, a discovery in his mind that was already there, waiting to be unopened and shown to the world. So what matters, and what is around us as the basic principles can form our discoveries, whether that be in art, in science, literature, or in the humanities and sciences. We'll go forward about 500 years. Where you make discoveries and where you make developments matters as well, not just what you make. The desert, 1942, the midst of World War II, and the United States has just joined the war. The idea here is to create a new type of weapon out in the middle of nowhere. Scientists are brought from around the United States and the world, including Great Britain, to work on a new type of device in a single place. It is undeveloped, but very soon it becomes a sprawling city throughout the entire zone, a barren wasteland turned into a metropolis almost overnight, to work towards the creation of one thing. And where matters, because now it is not just what they have and the materials that they are producing, but this brings together people into a single spot and location. And it is from this where that we get the atomic bomb. The discovery and the creation of this goes back decades. It flows into us a conversion of both the materials that are on display and also its usage in a single place. But what really counts here is that within a single location, the amount of scientific knowledge and people and materials required are there to make this discovery and usage into a weapon, which still is with us and makes the international relations of our modern world all the more complicated for it. But this is what was created from that one place where the groups came together in 1945. So what you create and where you create things create a convergence of different ideas, and those two things matter. Third is rather different. Still on the theme of war, we go back 30 years, between 1914 and 1918. The barren wastelands of northern France and Belgium have been shelled continuously for many years. The youth of Europe and the entire world are sent to the front. What is destroying this? The weapons around them. Where is this happening? It is happening within Europe itself, and they are congregated together. Masses of people from the universities, from people, workers, all gathered together in an effect to win back pride, prestige for their countries. It looks like the surface of the moon. And it is here that number of discoveries and those youth are brought together, who, although they are fighting at war, still consider and think about what they had left behind as individuals and as civilians. One of those people is Karl Schwarzschild, and he is fighting in the German army on both the western and eastern fronts. And as he sits in a number of those large craters on either side of the Great War, he begins to think about the nature of reality, general relativity, and the discoveries of Einstein before him. And so much like the craters and holes that are around him that have killed his friends and the allies outside of the Axis control, we have here his discovery of the event horizon and its weight and its form in the future displayed here in Interstellar. The idea before this is that where this happened influenced and must have had some influence on the discovery of certain things, even though the connection wasn't clear at first. The timing of when this happened and the youth brought together, along with his influence from the past, created his theory, which we still use to augment and display the black hole and the event horizon even today. How? When we create things, we are bound by the technologies that we put into them. The mathematical complications, the types of tools that we have. For example, with David, he was constrained by what? And also the types of tools, either copper or iron, that he used to chisel out the great monument. When the nuclear bomb was made in the deserts of the American West, it was up to the amount of materials and also the place where people could be gathered together. When it came to the discovery, at least of the theories of the event horizon, it also depended on where as well. When it comes to how, it depends on the know-how and the creation and selection of information over time. And 2,200 years ago, at least represented in this painting of the School of Athens by Raphael, we see here the portrait of learned society as it is imagined 1,400 years later, and the importance of precision machines, mathematics, knowledge, and the self. How is this applied, though? How is through the materials and tools and forms that it takes. And we are able to understand this not just through their words, but also through their creations. The Antikythera mechanism. Aged somewhere to around the 2nd century BC, this mechanism was the first analog computer 2,000 years ago. That gives us a look into how the planets and systems rotate around the Earth, because of course it was around the Earth at that time, but with it you are able to calculate the positions of planets, the direction and the distance of various objects, and the moon and its phases as well. It was lost to us 2,000 years ago and rediscovered in the 19th century, and we now know its importance. How did they make this? The precision of materials and forms that had grown up over time and that had developed, lost to the ages, until of course Babbage starts to recreate such things in the 18th and 19th centuries as well, but again shows that discoveries can be made and they can be lost, but it depends on the culture around them, what, when, where, and how here on our 4th. Last comes to something different. When we think of discoveries and development, we think of scientific discovery. We think of machines and weapons and the architecture to understand mathematical principles to describe the world around us. We think of artwork as well to a certain extent, but more so in the ideas of creativity. We often don't think about discovery anymore as venturing out, going into the distance and finding and conquering the natural world, which was for people, and still is, the idea of discovery itself, finding that which we can all see, but do not experience and move beyond. Mount Everest was that place in the early 20th century. It was that which was to be discovered and conquered and taken. Something that was, of course, seen and known, but yet doing it itself through human ingenuity is the discovery itself. In 1924, George Mallory and Andrew Irving set off on their fated summit expedition, never to return. Discovery is not just something that is when you are at your desk. It's not in your workshop. It's not in the safety of the sands of the desert, or even in the dangers of the holes that pockmark the Western Front. It can be found in the extremes of the earth. That is discovery. That is a form of development all on its own, and something, of course, we wish to do beyond Earth's surface even today. Discovery is dangerous as well. The two climbers, Mallory and Irving, never returned from their expedition up to the mountain, and although seen through telescopes reaching close to the top, they were never found again. 20 years ago, Mallory's body was discovered on the slopes of Mount Everest, and he was buried once again and left there undisturbed. Only last week was Irving's body found, or at least part of it, his foot. And through DNA analysis, another discovery, we are able to confirm that it is really him, still resting on that mountaintop today. So when it comes to discovery in the end, over why you do these things, these climbers set out to challenge themselves, to challenge what had been made around them, to challenge the limits of the human person. And in each case, we do this, but in this case, a much more physical way. And in an interview before he sets out to Mount Everest, George Mallory, the better climber of the two, said to the interviewer, or the interviewer said to him rather, "Why do you do it? Why do you go out?" Mallory simply answers, "Because it is there, and that is why I must do it." And of course, never came back from this, but discovery is a dangerous thing altogether. So to bring this all together, when you think about the development and discovery overall, think about what, when, where, how, and why. It's something that fits in the palm of your hand, and mnemotechnically you can always understand it and read it through what's around you. So you can always remember what these things are. When you wish to work forward and think about the discovery of things and where you are at, try to imagine what is being crafted today and its materials. Think about where these things are happening and where to be close to that. Think about why this is happening, how this is happening, and also when in time you can be there. For with these things all together, you are most able to enact the change and discovery you wish. Emerson, in the 1934, when he's giving his commencement speech to the Harvard about the premier scientists, he says that it is to cheer, raise, and guide the next generation. And it is to be great is to be misunderstood. So when you are thinking about this, retain that in your hand, because of all the theories that come out, at least as a historian, it comes down to the individual to actualize all those 5 things at the same time and bring them together so that you can actually make the discoveries and the developments at that time. An example would be, you may have all the equipment and boats and gear that you have, but unless you are there on that day, the fish will swim away and you will catch nothing. So much so with discovery, and so much so with those 5 things when you consider where you go in the future and what your role in discovery will be. And with that, I conclude my talk. Thank you.